When my father lost his job, I didn't hesitate. I worked 2 jobs, skipped meals, and sent every spare dollar home. For 7 years, I was the dutiful daughter, funding my parents' comfortable lifestyle while living off cheap noodles in a cramped apartment. But the moment I asked for a few months of relief after getting laid off, their warmth vanished. They called me selfish, ungrateful, and told me I was dead to them. So, I stopped sending money. Then came the rumors. For 4 years, my parents told the entire family, our hometown, and anyone who would listen that I had disappeared, implying I'd abandoned them or met a tragic end. But I hadn't disappeared. I was quietly building something they never expected. I'm glad to have you here. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Maya. I'm 32 years old, and for a long time, I believed that being a good daughter meant sacrificing my own life to fund someone else's. When my father lost his job, I didn't hesitate. I immediately stepped up, taking on 2 jobs, skipping meals, and sending over $2,000 home every single month. For 7 long years, I paid for my parents' comfortable Ohio lifestyle and enabled my fully capable, unemployed younger brother, Marcus. I lived off cheap instant noodles in a cramped, drafty apartment while they went on weekend getaways and remodeled their kitchen. Then the turning point came. I lost my primary marketing contract. Terrified and financially exhausted, I called my parents, gently asking if I could pause my monthly transfers for just 3 short months until I found a new client. The warmth in their voices evaporated instantly. My mother screamed that I was a selfish, ungrateful daughter who wanted them to starve. My father told me I was dead to them. That was the exact moment something inside me snapped, and I cut off every single cent. For months after I stopped sending money, my phone stayed completely silent. No apologies, no check-ins to see if I was surviving, nothing. They had erased me the second my bank transfer stopped. Then came a surprising message from my distant cousin, Sarah. She reached out cautiously, asking if I was safe and where I'd been hiding for the past 4 years. I was confused until Sarah explained the narrative my parents had spun to the entire extended family and our hometown. They told everyone that I had mysteriously disappeared into thin air overnight. They played the role of heartbroken, grieving parents, weeping at family reunions about their tragic, missing daughter. It was a brilliant, manipulative performance. By pretending I'd vanished, they gained immense sympathy, free meals, and interest-free loans from pitying relatives. My stomach churned, but I didn't rush to post receipts on social media. I realized that a desperate animal is most dangerous when provoked early. So, I decided to become the ghost they claimed I was, quietly letting their fragile house of cards build higher while I plotted my next move. Over the next 4 years, I channeled every ounce of energy into my own growth. Free from the financial drain of supporting 3 full-grown adults, my life transformed rapidly. My small digital consulting firm flourished, growing from a desperate freelance gig into a thriving agency with a full team. I bought a sleek, modern home in a neighboring city, invested smartly, and even purchased a significant ownership stake in a prestigious, local commercial event venue called the Grand View. Meanwhile, my parents' financial reality was catching up to them. Without my monthly subsidy, their debt had quietly ballooned. Yet, driven by pure vanity, they refused to downgrade their lifestyle. When their 30th wedding anniversary approached, they decided to throw a lavish, high-end celebration at none other than the Grand View, determined to project an illusion of wealth to our entire extended family. Through Sarah, I learned they had stretched their credit cards to the absolute limit just to secure the date. They were gambling on post-event cash gifts from relatives to cover the remaining balance. They wanted a fairy tale night, unaware that they were stepping directly into my backyard. The night of the grand anniversary party arrived, and the Grand View was packed. Soft jazz filled the ballroom, chandeliers glistened overhead, and over 100 guests stood around drinking expensive champagne. My parents stood near the entrance, dressed in velvet and silk, soaking up compliments like royalty. Then, the heavy glass doors opened, and I walked in. I wore an emerald silk dress, tailored perfectly, paired with simple gold jewelry and an air of quiet confidence. The room went dead quiet. Forks clattered against plates. Aunts gasped, uncles turned pale, and whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire. The missing daughter, the tragic ghost they had spent 4 years mourning, was standing right in front of them, very much alive and clearly thriving. My mother's glass slipped in her hand, spilling red wine across her dress. My father stared as if he'd seen a specter. Realizing 100 pairs of eyes were watching their reaction, my father forced a tight, artificial smile, stepping forward to pull me into a stiff, suffocating hug. "What are you doing here?" He hissed into my ear, his teeth gritted behind his fake smile. "Leave right now before you ruin everything." Instead of shrinking back, I smiled warmly, picked up a champagne glass from a passing waiter's tray, and walked directly toward the stage where the DJ was standing. I tapped the microphone twice, and the crisp sound echoed across the entire ballroom, commanding immediate silence. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice steady and completely calm. "I know many of you are shocked to see me tonight, considering for the last 4 years, my parents told you all that I simply vanished into thin air." My mother stepped toward the stage, her face twisted in panic. "Maya, stop this right now," she shrilled, reaching for the microphone. I stepped back gracefully and continued into the mic. I didn't disappear. I was cut off. For 7 years, I worked 2 jobs and skipped meals to send over $2,000 home every single month to pay for their house, their vacations, and my brother's life. But 4 years ago, when I lost a major contract and asked for just 3 months of relief, they told me I was dead to them because I stopped sending cash. Gasps erupted across the room. Aunts and uncles stared in utter horror, looking between me and my parents. The mask had completely slipped, and their 4 years of carefully crafted pity stories shattered into pieces right in front of the entire family. My father lunged toward the stage, his face purple with rage. "You ungrateful little brat. Get out of this venue right now before I have security throw you onto the street." I looked down at him, unbothered, and took a slow sip of my champagne. "You can't have me thrown out, Dad. Because as of 6 months ago, I am the majority owner of the parent company that owns the Grandview." A suffocating silence fell over the room. My mother gasped, clutching her chest, while my father's jaw dropped in absolute disbelief. "And as the owner," I continued, pulling a crisp legal document from my clutch, "I couldn't help but notice that your final venue balance of $12,000 was due at 5 o'clock sharp today." The payment bounced. I signaled to the chief security officer standing by the doors, who immediately stepped forward with 2 officers. "So, you have 15 minutes to settle the $12,000 in full, or security will clear this ballroom for breach of contract and unpaid debt. You wanted to play rich in front of everyone. Now it's time to pay for it." The panic erupted instantly. Relatives who had loaned them money over the years started demanding answers, while my parents frantically scrambled, begging my brother and extended family to pull funds together to avoid being thrown into the parking lot. I set my empty glass on a table, smoothed down my dress, and quietly walked toward the exit. My father chased after me into the foyer, screaming through tears, asking how I could be so heartless to my own blood. I stopped, turned around, and looked him dead in the eye. "You taught me that family is purely financial," I said quietly. "I'm just following your rules." I walked out into the cool night air, leaving them to face the burning ruin of their own greed. For years, I thought I needed their approval to feel worthy. But standing under the stars, completely free from their shadow, I realized that walking away wasn't disappearing. It was finally stepping into the light. What would you have done if your own family traded you for a paycheck? Comment your thoughts below.